let's talk Carolina-Louisville. Tar Heels win it 86-70 on Wednesday night in the Smith Center. Adam and I had our Rapid Reactions podcast. Hope you got a chance to check that out. That included a conversation I had with Hubert Davis, Adam had with Jalen Withers. Although I just learned, because I had not seen this interview, Adam, Jalen Withers boxed you out the whole time? What happened?
No wonder he gets so many offensive rebounds. Yeah. He's tough to get around.
Man. So if you watched it, just know Jalen Withers does like Adam. Jalen Withers is nice, but apparently after he was still just so feisty after this competition.
Well, after his first career double-double, he wasn't sure he wanted to look the Tiger in the eye.
Right. As a Tar Heel first double-double, he did have a couple for Louisville last year, so he's up to 3 now. Sorry, Adam gave you bad info there. So Jalen Withers, one of 5 Tar Heels who finished in double figures as Carolina wins it 86-70. And Adam, I think you said this or something similar to this in the Rapid Reactions podcast. I'm not sure I would say Carolina played well in this game for 40 minutes. The Tar Heels played well enough to win the game. They were really good at the very beginning, jumped out to a really sizable lead, I think 14 or 16 points pretty early in the game. About 8 or 10 minutes in, and then just kind of coasted for a while. Louisville would get a little closer. Carolina would stretch it back out, get a little closer, stretch it back out. Tar Heels led by as many as 20 late in the first half. Then all of a sudden, Louisville couldn't miss. They were 9 of 10 from the floor to start the second half. Several of those were three-pointers. And you look up, and it's a 5-point game because this also coincided with Carolina not having a very good stretch offensively. And then the Tar Heels just kind of got snapped out of their funk and played well the last 10 minutes or so and pulled away and won by 16. So it's a game that Carolina won and they move on. And I don't say that to be snarky or anything. I just kind of think that's what it is. You had to win this game. Carolina's better than Louisville. It was a home game. You had to win it. The Tar Heels did. And now they move on to what is in the very near future going to be a difficult stretch of games.
Yeah, I don't think in any way a memorable game, but a necessary game because it's on the arc of this season and kind of the path of what this team is trying to become. Those first 10 minutes or so, the ball movement and passing, I mean, these last 3 or 4 games, every single game, there's been some kind of pass or finding an open man that's been eyebrow-raising in terms of it's not necessarily just the guards. Armando Bacot started out with, I think, 3 assists in the first 12 minutes on Wednesday night. So that's just kind of the attitude this team is trying to create. That's how they're trying to get where they want to go. They played fine. They played well enough to beat Louisville by 16, which should tell you something about this season, that we're at the point where a nearly 20-point win over an ACC team, and everybody's like, well, they didn't play very well. So they were pretty good. Armando Bacot was really good. Hubert Davis talked about that with you after the game. Harrison Ingram showed all the different things he can do. Jalen Withers, in addition to being a force in the postgame interview, was a force during the game itself and did all the things that have made him such an important contributor.
19 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, and 3 blocks for Bacot. So a really good game for him. R.J. Davis, 21 points, 6 assists, just 1 turnover, 2 steals, 6 rebounds. Jalen Withers, those 15 and 10 that we talked about. Ingram, 10 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 14 pod bump. Big-time pod bump for Cormac Ryan. 4 for 4 he started the game from three-point range and finished with 14 points. He didn't get to play a lot in the second half because of some foul trouble on some very – rarely have I seen one guy get 3 very difficult fouls called against him in the same game and in the span of 6 or 7 minutes. But that happened to Cormac Ryan, so unfortunately didn't play a ton in the second half because of those fouls. And Elliot Cadeau had 5 points and 3 assists and 3 steals. So, again, Carolina did what it needed to do to win this game. And now, and we're not done with this, but now they have BC on Saturday, quick turnaround to Wake on Monday, back-to-back road games against Florida State and Georgia Tech after that, and then Duke comes to Chapel Hill. So this is I feel like there have been a lot of these this year where you can look at this cluster of games upcoming and say that will be a big challenge for the Tar Heels. So that is what is in the future. Adam, I did think Carolina's rebounding was a big deal in this game. it was relatively even for most of the game. And then the last 10 minutes or so, Carolina really did a good job on the glass. They ended up out-rebounding the Cardinals 40-28. They had a bunch of offensive rebounds, even though they didn't turn them into a lot of second-chance points necessarily, but they did get a lot of opportunities and just kept the ball a bunch with those offensive rebounds and did a good job tipping out shots and things like that. Hubert Davis was not happy with the defense, which has been, of course, good here for a long stretch, and was good in the first half. But the second half, Louisville scorching hot, 16 of 25 from the floor, 64%, 6 of 8 from three. And they played well. Their offense was good in the second half, and Carolina's defense wasn't as good as the Tar Heels wanted it to be.
And I think credit to Louisville for continuing to be competitive in a way that it felt like Syracuse kind of wasn't, where when Syracuse got down, it was over. Louisville got down in a similar fashion. I think everybody in the Smith Center felt like, oh, this is exactly like the Syracuse game. And it wasn't at all because Louisville made some jump shots there in the second half and made it got down to a 5-point game, and Carolina able to do enough to win it. All-time power of the pod performance from Cormac Ryan, because people talking about him on the sticky note.
Oh, I think he's on the sticky note.
And then he goes out and hits his first 4 3-pointers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens when you go on the pod.
Yes. So Tar Heels now 14-3 and 6-0 in conference play. I just want to take a quick look at the ACC just really fast. So Tar Heels are 6-0, 5-1 NC State and Florida State. Two teams, each one of those teams' only loss is to Carolina. Then Duke is at 4-1. The Blue Devils did not play in the midweek this week. They are back in action hosting Pitt on Saturday. And then you've got Wake Forest at 4-2. And then everybody else is 500 or below in talking about in-conference action. And so I do think you're starting to see a little bit of separation, even though it's early, in conference play, because some teams, most notably Miami and Clemson, Miami's 3-3 now and Clemson's 2-4. And again, there's still so much time to go that you're not out of it, but those two teams are going to need to win some games. They've kind of lost some of their wiggle room as far as the wins and losses go. So that group is starting to separate just a bit at the top.